But which freshmen do we need to watch in 2025? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. We're going to be talking about a successful weekend for Oklahoma athletics in the third segment, but now we're going to talk, Jay, about freshmen to watch in 2025. In the green room, we were talking about one in-state wide receiver that I know that you're really, really excited about.
I don't think people understand just how good Elijah Thomas is. He's a freak. He's an alien. And I remember watching him over at Chakotah and looking at him on the field, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't normal. This doesn't look normal. This feels a little different. And even with the level of competition, a lot of folks have kind of downplayed it, at the level that they're playing. I think they're with 3A or 4A or something like that. And so people are like, they're okay. They're not playing the greatest, but just his ability, his movement, his body, his fluidity, he gives you everything you're looking for and kind of reminds you of some old school Oklahoma Sooner wide receivers that stood out. And I think that he can be one of those. Now, the wide receiver room is the one room where we're probably going to have the most flux, I guess you could say. Like we talked about last segment of players that we need to have big winter workouts. We've heard about Javonnie Gibson. I know Zion Kearney's out there busting his butt with his quarterbacks and learning the playbook and learning how to separate himself. So you've got a lot of the guys with size still over there, while at the same time, bring these young freshmen like Elijah Thomas. Him and Manny Choice are probably the two that I think will probably jump up the most, especially because Manny Choice being such a big wide receiver. You need that. And you'll have more veterans to go with them to help with separation, but yeah, Elijah Thomas is going to be nasty. I'm going to go ahead and buy my stock right now. I've already loaded up on it. Sorry, we may be running out very soon. So if you want to get in, you got about a week before I go ahead and dump all my money on the rest of it.
Speaking of offensive freshmen to watch, I really think Torrey Blaylock is going to be a guy that turns a lot of heads in winter workouts, in spring ball, just because of his speed and his ability to make plays, after the catch, his ability to run inside and outside. I think he's going to turn a lot of heads. Now, will that translate into snaps in 2025? That's the part I'm not so sure about, because the running back room has a lot of depth and it's got a lot of experience now with guys like Javonte Barnes and Gavin Sawchuk coming back, Sam Franklin, Xavier Robinson, Taylor Tatum. That's going to be tough for a kid like Torrey Blaylock to emerge and ascend to the top of the running back ranks. At the same time, we might see some transfer portal departures. We'll see. But I think you'll hear a lot of buzz about him coming out of spring ball because he's just a playmaker. The dude is just able to do so many good things for you at the running back position. But it wouldn't surprise me to see him redshirt in 2025. And then in 2026, really start to see him emerge as a big-time playmaker for the Sooners offense. On defense, Maliek Hawkins. If there's anybody that is really prepared to come into Oklahoma football as a true freshman and make an impact, it's going to be that kid. Because, one, he's watched his brother Michael do it. He's seen all of the pitfalls that true freshmen can run into. He's seen some of the good things. He knows what is expected, especially his father being a former Sooner and a former NFL player. He knows what's expected of him coming in, and he's not going to be surprised by any of the expectations. So a lot of times what we see at a true freshman is they're not ready to contribute because either they don't have the off-field stuff ready or they don't understand the playbook. Well, Maliek Hawkins, he's going to understand what the expectations are, and he's going to hit the ground running. And with a cornerback room that is going to have some competition, because nothing is really solidified outside of maybe Eli Bowen and Gentry Williams' health, Maliek Hawkins is going to have an opportunity to earn himself some significant snaps as part of the Sooners defense.
Yeah, he's one of the corners that I think is probably going to jump up real fast. Honestly, him, Tristan Hayes, and Cortland Guillory, it's really hard to pick which one is going to be the best, because I think all three of them have the highest of ceilings. Tristan is one of the faster guys on the defensive side of the ball. He came in his test scores appear to be just lights out. So he's going to be a premier corner. I mean, that's why Georgia was going after him so heavily. And we've seen the way Georgia corners play. Even the thinner guys, they still find a way to learn how to hit very well or at least be in the best positions. And I think Tristan Haynes is going to be one of those. But Maliek Hawkins, you're right. Being that his father and being that him and Michael have been around so many NFL guys their entire lives and understanding what you need to do around to, to just better prepare yourself and get yourself to the level that you need to in order to be truly competitive and get out there on the field. I know that he's going to be one that's going to definitely be prepared. He's rocking his dad's number. He's going to not only hit some folks, but he's going to be really good in coverage. I really enjoyed watching him down there at Frisco and Emerson just because you could see that he was hungry the entire time.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's definitely one name to keep your eyes on. Defensive line-wise, we talked about this last segment, how the defensive line is definitely going to be better this coming year. You've seen the development. Young Jaden Jackson showed up, showed out. Dominic Williams making his valiant return to get himself drafted even higher because he's going to be causing problems once again and all the young behind it. But I think Trent Wilson is one name also to keep your eyes on the defensive line. He was an MVP at a lot of the camps, especially the UA Next camp out there in Maryland. He's probably one that's going to try to find a way to force their hand to push him up. The question's going to be how well of his workouts are going to be with Schmitty, and if he puts on the gains needed. He's probably the freshman on the defensive line to really keep your eyes on. But returning players, of course, like Nigel Smith is supposedly bulking up and moving inside. So having Trent right there to push, man, the freshman class this year, it was small, but it's mighty. There's some players in there that you're going to be like that jump out off the screen when you watch them.
And I think looking at the offensive line, Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje are going to be the names that everybody's going to wonder about all offseason. Are they going to be ready to hit the ground running? Are they going to be ready to contribute early on in their Sooners career? We'll see. Offensive tackle is a tough spot to play. It's a tough spot to play at any level, but then making the jump from the high school level to the SEC is going to make it more challenging as well. They're going to have some tests out there. They're going to put Michael Fasusi against an R. Mason Thomas and just see how he does, right? You're going to hear some highs and lows as well. Can they join that offensive tackle competition? Can they become a part of it? I think that's going to be the question. You've got depth. You've got guys like Derek Simmons and Luke Baklenko that are coming in with a lot of experience. You've got dudes like Jake Taylor, Jacob Sexton, Logan Howland that played a lot last year, but the Sexton and Taylor, they were really, really banged up throughout the year. And so you don't know if you got to really see the best of them. So what does that offensive tackle competition look like? And can Fasusi and Foje emerge and become a part of that? I think that's going to be the question. If they find themselves anywhere near the 2 deep out of spring ball or even for the spring game, I think that's pretty telling as to where they're being developed or how their development is going. If not, I don't think it should be any cause for concern or alarm. It's true freshmen, evolving and adapting to college football. It's okay. But I will be curious to see just kind of what their development looks like, what the buzz is around them in spring ball, because if one of those guys can become a starter, I think it creates a little bit higher ceiling for your offensive line. And we know that Bill Beanbo is not just going to throw out anybody to start for his offensive line. But if one of them can, or at least is on the 2 deep, I think that should say, hey, we got a pretty positive trajectory here going forward.
I totally agree. The offensive line is going to be interesting to see. The good thing is, as you mentioned, we've got a lot more players with actual experience. We're not relying on 5 true freshmen in the 3 deep to have to be able to play. We're not relying on it this year. We've actually got guys that are redshirt freshmen instead that have been around in the 3 deep to help to make sure that, if another injury happens or, a cascade of them, knock on wood, we hope that doesn't happen, we'll be safe going forward. So totally agree with you there.
A wild weekend that was for the Oklahoma Sooners. I say wild, but really just a successful. We are so back. Coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.